Hello everyone, and today we will be talking about the Ranked Season 1 metagame, and my goodness, it's an absolute train wreck right now. Loomian Legacy has released its biggest balance patch in over 3 years, and this patch has introduced a lot of overpowered moves and abilities to certain Loomians that need to either get nerfed or be banned from competitive play. I am aware that JamiyJamie is planning to release a patch within the next couple days, but I still want to make this video to talk about other potential problems that could eventually get patched in the future. With that out of the way, let's talk about some of the biggest problems from Ranked Season 1. Let's first talk about the deer in the room, cervolen. Cervolen is a typeless type Loomian with 110 base melee attack. It also has an ability called Boast, which gives cervolen a +1 melee attack. It also has the move Stampede, which has 150 base power when all of its teammates are alive. It also got an addition of Adaptive Assault, typeless type Adaptive Assault, which is 75 base power priority. Keep in mind, this is with a Loomian with 110 melee attack and Boast. It also has Bulk Up to set up, and coverage options like Mega Chomp, Body Crash, and Ill Will. Now, the thing is with cervolen, it's really overpowered. This can KO pretty much any Loomian neutrally, and can even 2-hit KO Loomians with resistant hits, which is pretty insane. You need resistant melee tanks just to stand a chance with cervolen. And only spirits can effectively swap into cervolen, and even then, most spirit types suffer with low HP stats. The best checks for cervolen right now is Your Snacks, Sinogre, Soulburst Krakaloa, Maraith, Harvesect, and Oblos, and Terrifying Tyrex and Terrifying Serenite could work as well. You could also give cervolen a minus Boast boost as well, but you gotta keep in mind that cervolens usually run very brawny, so it actually is relatively difficult to give it a minus Boast boost. Not to mention that its priority and its high power makes it really hard to stop. In my opinion, I definitely do think cervolen needs a nerf, and that nerf is already planned, thankfully. So, we're going to see how that goes. But yeah, cervolen, definitely the most overpowered Loomian right now. The next Loomian I want to talk about is Soulburst Krakaloa, and everyone knows how insane Soulburst Krakaloa is. It's actually one of the Loomians that is used the most just to soak hits from Stampede cervolen, but even then, Soulburst Krakaloa itself is a massive problem. It's an insanely tanky Loomian with 115 into its health, 105 in the melee defense, and 109 in the range defense. Those are insanely high stats. Not to mention that 126 range attack is insane for a wall. It sets up Heat Wave, which makes Burn Up become magnified, meaning that Soulburst Krakaloa can get +2 from Burn Up, which is insane. Not to mention that it has some good coverage options in Dark Surge, Spectral Burst, Magma Block, Raging Flame, and even Mud Spatter. Scapegoat could also be problematic on Krakaloa as well, but I haven't seen a Scapegoat Krakaloa yet, so I don't know if it's a problem yet, but I could definitely see that as a problem. And of course, it can heal with Rejuvenate, and its only bad stat is within its speed. And honestly, that low speed stat could even be used as an advantage, meaning that slower pivots like El Iguana, Seasong, the Surkame, and Flash and Flee Luminami can't get momentum off of you. It could soak multiple super effective hits, which makes it really, really hard to beat. The best checks currently is pivoting with like Luminami and switching Holly Bunch on a non-Dark Surge hit, as Holly Bunch can absolutely nuke something. Also, hard-hitting attackers that can hit Soulburst Krakaloa super effectively can take it out as well, and status conditions like Poison can also deal with it. It can also get Revenge killed when at low HP, but the problem is it's so hard to get it at low HP when it's constantly rejuvenating its HP back and then hitting Loomians hard in return. I once had a Soulburst Krakaloa beat El Iguana in a stall match, and that was without Dark Surge. Let that sink in for a second. Without Dark Surge, it beat an El Iguana with a type disadvantage. That is pretty insane, and Soulburst Krakaloa definitely needs a nerf. The next Loomian we're going to talk about is not necessarily the Loomian itself that's overpowered, but it's the ability, Mystic Tone. Yes, we are talking about Celesting. Now, Celesting has great bulk on both sides with a great defensive typing, can set up hazards, has Flash and Flee pivot, and it also has other support moves like Luster Loot, Deja Vu, and Lightspeed Ray. But Honestly, Celesting and Solar Celesting is not the problem here. The problem is its ability, Mystic Tone. It's a no drawback ability that adds way too much luck in the game. Kind of like what Cervolen does with Appetite now that you think about it. And even worse, Celesting's range attack is high enough that getting hit from a Mystic Tone attack could be too much for certain Loomians to endure. And that doesn't even count the RNG that it relies on. If it calls the right move at the right time, you could lose a really important Loomian, and I can't tell you how frustrating it is. Not to mention all the RNG that relies on Mystic Tone. It can also even Soul Burst, set up Peace of Mind, and Luster Loot its way to victory, making Celesting very hard to KO. But honestly, that is fine if it wasn't for Mystic Tone constantly calling moves. It just adds way too much luck to the game, and it's definitely not something that should be used in competitive play. It's not the most overpowered Loomian in the world, but it's more annoying. Kind of like the reasons why Cervolen is usually banned from tournaments, because of its Appetite ability. That's why I think Mystic Tone should definitely either get nerfed, or just make Celesting and Mystic Tone banned regardless. So yeah, let's head to the next problem. The next problem is not a Loomian, but it's the passive energy regen. Now, this is a new mechanic that gives Loomians energy back at the end of the turn, and honestly, as a concept, I don't hate passive energy regen. I could see it work, but the problem is that it gives way too much energy back, and it makes low-costing moves, like setup moves, status moves, and luster loot really overpowered, because none of those moves actually use that much energy, so you get all your energy back if you use those moves. Let's not even talk about Outburst. Outburst is probably the most overpowered move in the game right now, because you gain energy back after using an Outburst. So, after using Outburst, you have 125 base power, get energy back, and then passive energy regen makes it so you can spam a lot of high base power Outburst at once, which is crazy. This causes less moments to wait or rest, meaning that you can't stall down an unwinnable matchup anymore. Usually what I would do if I had a bad matchup is I would try to stall down a Loomian's energy, and then find a situation to, once it's out of energy, come in and beat it. You can't really do that anymore because it reduces passive energy regen, reduces the number of chances for a Loomian to wait or rest, which is a massive problem. Now, there are a few ways to fix passive energy regen, thankfully. What they're planning on doing is reducing the passive energy regen, which is a good thing, but I honestly don't even think that's going to fix the problem. I think the thing that will fix the passive energy regen problem is making the cost of moves a lot higher. So make the energy cost a lot higher, like make Outburst 75 power, make Luster Loot 50 power, make Gamma Pulse 60 power, make Dark Surge 60 power, like make the energy cost higher. So the passive energy regen is useful, but it doesn't actually make it overpowered. And if this does not work, just getting rid of passive energy regen is always an option. It's probably the easiest option anyway, and honestly, it might be the best way to go with this, but I'm not sure yet. We're going to see how the nerf the passive energy regen does, and then we're going to decide where we go from there. But yeah, passive energy regen, cool concept, just not really well executed. The next problematic Loomian is Novadeaus. And yes, I'm calling Novadeaus that because it's overpowered. It actually has the highest stat total out of any Loomian in the entire game, tied with Soul Burst Dakuda. Has 134 attack on both sides, has a good speed stat in 101, has 2 stabs in Fire and Ice, and an ability that heavily boosts its ancient types attacks, meaning it technically has 3 stab abilities, which is kind of insane. It also has the broken Outburst move that I talked about earlier. And Novadeaus has probably the most flexible options out of any Loomian in the entire game. It can run Bulk Up. It can run Peace of Mind. It has both of the enchantment moves. Has both of the raging moves. Has Icicle Traps. Has Slumber. Has Bitter Cold. Has Raging Flame. And even Burn Up for hazard removal. Yes, Novadeaus gets a lot of moves. Novadeaus is almost impossible to read because it is so flexible, and it could be a melee attacker, it could be a mixed attacker, it could be a ranged attacker, it could be a defensive Bitter Cold Raging Flame Loomian with all I know. But you will never know until it clicks one move, and once it clicks a move, it's usually too late by then because it does way too much damage. And the bulk is good enough to live at least one neutral hit. Well, from besides Stampede Cervolen, of course. and it is immune to both Raging Flame and Bitter Cold, so you can't even lower its attacks on both sides. It's also immune to Icicle Traps, and is a fire type anyway, so it actually burns them down. Defensive teams stand no chance because Novadeaus' coverage is too good, and these things can even run mixed, meaning that it can hit Loomians on both sides. Honestly, the best way to beat Novadeaus is to revenge kill it with a faster Loomian that hits it super effectively, but it doesn't have many Loomians that could hit it super effectively, so it's very tough. It can even be ran defensively and spread burns and frostbites to opposing teams as well, and it could set up teammates like Elusive Borealisk as well. Yeah, everyone knows how broken Novadeaus is, and honestly, all the dragons can be relatively devastating in their own part, but Novadeaus is definitely the most broken of these dragons, and definitely either needs a nerf or should just flat out be banned from ranked PvP. So, yeah, Nova freaking Deus. The next problematic Loomian we're going to be talking about is Tonics. Oh boy, we're talking about Tonics being overpowered again. This is like the third or fourth time in the last couple years. Yes, this Loomian sets up the fog, which is still currently broken in ranked PvP, by the way, so yeah. Unless that was fixed in the most recent update, it's still broken in ranked. It also has the best defensive typing, having only 1 weakness to Metal, 2 immunities to Brawler and Spirit, and 4 other resistances. Tonics still has Spite, it still has Flash and Flea Pivot, and it has Frost Beam to hit plant types, which light type moves don't usually hit. Not to mention that 1 or 2 Piece of Minds makes it impossible to break Tonics on the range side, so yeah, there's that as well. It can also get rid of hazards with Teardown and Gust, so yeah. It also has other options, like Charade, Luster Loot to gain HP, Square 1 to get rid of stat boost, Final Ruse, Rant for light types, and it even has the Reaper ability to gain health when revenge killing a Loomian. And yes, Tonics does hit hard enough, and it could still use the Reaper ability just as effectively. Just not as effectively as it did before when it had Lightspeed Ray. Tonics pretty much forces metal and plant types on the team, and even then, those Loomians have to be relatively bulky to swap in on it. After 1 palm, it is extremely difficult to break Tonics on the range side, especially if it runs the Luster Loot variant, where it actually gains a lot of HP back. Fog could set up other teammates that are broken as well, like Holly Bunch, Yershal, and Soulburst Icicle. All of those Loomians are overpowered in their own part, but I'm going to talk about those Loomians a little later. You are forced to run a melee metal type that can outspeed it in order to revenge kill it Tonics after a Piece of Mind. So, yeah, there aren't many Loomians that can counter Tonics. The best checks are Valkyrie, Stratosaurus, Celesting, and revenge killers like Krabtana and Samarine. But other than that, that's really it. You can also predict the plant types coming into a light type move, but you do gotta be careful with the devastating Frost Beam, especially if it does set up a Magnify or a Piece of Mind. So yeah, Tonics, even with all the nerfs it recently gotten, it's still extremely overpowered, and it still needs more nerfs. There are some other things in this metagame that are extremely powerful as well, and while I'm not sure if these things are necessarily broken yet, these are things that I want to keep an eye on. These are some of the other broken Loomians or broken abilities that might be overpowered. The Berserk ability. This is an ability that makes Loomians like Vocaloa and Banoki hit really hard. Very overpowered, especially when running with specialty gloves. Soulburst Icicle. Yeah, one of the best Bane of Haste Loomians in the entire game, and it still has Fadeaway Pivot. Yersoul hits extremely hard with Paro. Let's move on. Arceros. Arceros hits hard, has the Broken Outburst move, and in Heat Wave is extremely dangerous to beat. Cosmere Encase. Even though Cosmere Encase is a sitting duck, it has probably some of the best bulk out of any Loomian in the game, and it has Dissipate, making it a really good Bane of Haste Loomian as well. Cosmere Cracked, with its Eager ability and specialty goggles, makes it hit extremely hard, pretty much forced to run metal types. And not just metal types, bulky metal types. Expert Onslaught on Titans. Nothing else to say there. Expert Onslaught's overpowered. It should definitely be banned. Cephalops with its soul draining capabilities and its hazard setting capabilities as well. Cephalops might not be the most overpowered Loomian in the world, but it could still be extremely dangerous, and we should definitely keep an eye on it. Nemesis with specialty goggles and its secret ability makes it hit really hard. Not many Loomians can swap into a secret ability Nemesis. Metronet and Soulburst Metronet are still extremely dangerous. Soulburst Eruptodon Hellstorm is still very dangerous as well. Now, Thaumin might not be the most overpowered Loomian in the world, but it's been a Loomian that's been doing very well in this metagame, so I want to keep an eye on Thaumin, but I'm not sure if it's the most overpowered Loomian in the world. Holly Bunch, for obvious reason. It nukes Loomians, has amazing bulk, and it's amazing under Bane of Haste. And last but not least, Protagon. Goggles Dart Burst, hits 10 times, can destroy a lot of Loomians. And it's also very luck reliant as well, so it depends on the situation. So yeah, Protagon is also very powerful as well. Those are the massive flaws in this season's metagame, and I am aware that some of these Loomian / abilities will be nerfed already, but I still wanted to make this video to hopefully show everyone what other potentially broken Loomians that are running around. Hopefully Jamie can see this video, and the metagame will overall be better in the near future. If there is any overpowered Loomian or ability that I missed for this video, please tell me in the comments below, because this balance patch was massive. So there is a good chance that I missed something. I also don't want anyone to go after JamiyJamie either. I know he's the balancer to the game, and while he has made some questionable decisions sometimes, going after him and arguing with them is not going to do anything to help the matters. I understand people can get frustrated with this metagame sometime. Trust me, I did too. And the best way to fix that is to talk about the potential broken things and given tips and ideas on how to fix them. That's the best way to get progress done. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!